All right, so many diets do not work, and I'm going to tell you why in this video so that you can finally stop spinning your wheels, lose the weight, get your body healthy and in shape the way you want it, and move on with your life. Okay, make sure you listen closely and carefully, take some notes, go ahead and like and subscribe, and let's get into it. All right. So first reason why diets don't typically work, as far as I'm concerned, is that they tend to only have the short term in mind. So even the word diet seems to imply that. And so what happens is when we make these diet changes, a lot of times they're very drastic. A lot of times because of that, they're very unsustainable. So what I mean is it may call on you to drastically reduce the amount of food that you eat. It may call on you to drastically change the type of food that you eat. Okay. And I'm not saying that these kind of changes can't be successfully made. However, a lot of times such change can be overwhelming if you're not really prepared for it. And so a lot of people will find themselves starting and stopping and starting and stopping, starting with the mindset like I'm not going to be doing this for a long period of time. I just do this right now so I can get what I get and then get off of it. You see what I'm saying? And so a lot of times we tend to go in and have a short-term mindset with a diet, okay? Second reason that diets don't tend to work is that they are built off of foods that you don't want to eat. One thing that really frustrates me about a lot of quote popular diets, I'm all for a healthy diet that comprises of, the major food groups, helps you to get a lot of plant foods in, and just that really boosts your health. However, just case in point, there's this mindset that the Mediterranean diet is the healthy diet for all people. And come on now, like the Mediterranean diet is great. Obviously, it's worked for a lot of people. It's worked for the people who are from the Mediterranean region, and it could work for others as well. However, it's by no means the only healthy way to eat. And so that's one of the things that frustrates me is that the way that stuff tends to be put in media, it tends to suggest almost that the Mediterranean diet is the healthiest diet, is the way that everybody should eat. And that's just not the case. Think about this. So you come from, the people like you are the descendant of a culture or cultures, and they likely had pretty healthy diets. If you kind of if you kind of erase a lot of the time where a lot of this processed food was made, from like the 40s and 50s on, like a lot of how people ate was probably not that bad. Why? Because the main culprit in like unhealthy uh diets that produce fat gain, unwanted fat gain, the main culprit is man-made processed food. And I stand by that. That's really the main thing. And so if you erase a lot of that, because even around then, a lot of the ways that people used to cook changed around then because the processed foods that were being produced in the 40s and 50s and 60s and all that stuff, they were like advertised as like the latest, the best, the healthiest, even though they were not by any means. Okay. And so, you know, that's when a lot of our ancestors began to cook differently. They started to not just cook with whole ingredients like from scratch. That's where we went wrong in a lot of ways. Not to say other tweaks couldn't be made to the ways that we eat, but I'm just saying that to say, even if you just went back to how your people would cook and whatnot before the advent of processed food, you would be doing a whole lot better. I'm sure of that. Okay. So that said, you don't have to eat all this weird kind of food for you to be eating healthy. Okay. You can just well I'm about to get ahead of myself. But my point is we tend to think I have to eat all this stuff that's way different than how I normally eat. And that's kind of unappetizing to me because, and so I'm gonna explain to you why you can actually go back and eat the way the people before you in your family line ate. Now, the third reason why diets don't typically work is because there's a lot of them out there that imply that you can eat whatever you want. I mean, literally, I know there's a diet that would be advertised on TV when I was growing up that explicitly said eat whatever you want and still lose weight. The reason why that is very problematic is because it does not it does not help you to get rid of your cravings, which are the main I say one of the main culprits behind not being able to lose weight and struggling for years. It's because we have these cravings, especially the sugar and starchy food, mainly in the processed form, and we find a hard time letting those go, and so that tends to keep the pounds on. Okay, so that said, let me give you 3 tips for making diet changes that will cause or result in sustained, healthy fat loss. That will, again, it'll last. Okay, and then your eating ways will last because they're sustainable. So the first thing you need to do is a mind shift. And basically that is knowing from the outset that you are making permanent changes to the way that you eat and you're making permanent changes to your lifestyle. In other words, you need to rethink how you approach food. Now, a lot of the reason why diets don't work, going back to the beginning of what I said, is because the way that we approach food is that we eat for the sake of eating. We just eat to, quote, put food in our stomach. And you've heard that terminology before. Put something on your stomach. Like, even for example, when we take medicine and stuff like that, make sure you put something on your stomach before you take this. Now think about that. Something. A lot of the stuff that we tend to eat, especially considering that 70% of our food supply in the United States is processed. A lot of stuff that we eat is not even it's not worthy to be considered food. And when you just eat to put something on your stomach, in other words, you just eat just because you're hungry, and you give no mind, no thought to the quality of your food. This is where a lot of our weight gain comes from. This is where a lot of our health problems come from. Okay. And so you have to rethink how you approach food, thinking about it from the standpoint of, as a lot of people say, eating to live, eating to provide your body with nutrition and proper sustenance. Okay. Because the thing is, that's really the main reason that you and I need food anyway. It's not because you need just something to kind of erase the hunger feeling. It's not that. Your body causes you to want food, so you'll provide it with the building blocks, the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, the vitamins and minerals that it actually needs. As I always say, your body has fundamental needs, and we have to eat with a mindset first of meeting those needs. When you do that, you're going to approach food differently because you're going to be like, okay, what is it that I need? And then you can still enjoy that kind of food too, which leads to my second point. Emphasize the healthy foods that you already eat. Okay. Now, again, whatever your ancestry, your culture that you come from, whatever that line is, there has to be some foods that your people ate, that you kind of still eat now, that actually aren't that bad. Like, me being black, like there's a lot of greens are significant in my culture. Greens, sweet potatoes, stuff like that. Now I can really lean into those, especially the green foods, and actually be doing really good. I can. Now, that may mean, if I'm gonna do it a healthy way, it may mean I don't need to use margarine. That if I use anything like that, I need to use like real butter that's well sourced. It might mean that I don't cook with, a lot of pork, and maybe I do like, turkey or something like that. That I use, healthy oils and whatnot. So not any sort of like vegetable oil that you buy from the shelf, but I use maybe, beef fat, healthy source beef fat, coconut oils, things like that. But there's a lot of vegetables in my culture, that or even ways of cooking meats and things like that, that's actually all right, you know. So emphasize the healthy foods that you're already eating, and then also be open minded to trying new food. So, there are some things you can pull from the Mediterranean diet or the diet of, the blue zone in Japan, or the Hunzas, um in I think Pakistan or whatever. It could be some things that you pull from them, like some principles and whatnot, and some specific foods. However, you don't have to become any of them. You can just kind of like try some of those things and add them to your food repertoire, so to speak. And then the, the third thing is you need to address the cravings. You have to address the cravings if you want to lose fat. So, in other words, you can't just eat whatever you want to eat and just eat all these sweets, even if it's artificially sweetened, like with these 0 calorie things. You can't do that and expect to really lose weight successfully on a permanent basis because you're going to really have a strong craving for sweets. Um, and the best way to move forward is to target that craving, because there is a place where you can be where you don't have such a strong craving for sweets, and you can still eat them every now and then, but they don't have a hold on you. The best way that I've seen to deal with cravings like that is fasting. Mainly fasting in the truest sense, where you don't eat anything, you just drink water, but then also fasting from the particular cravings, okay? Like intentionally saying, I will not be eating this, I will not be drinking this, and holding to it, okay? Um, enduring, because there will be some, still like some cravings for a while, but you've already told yourself, I'm not doing this. And what happened is, from my real personal experience, you get to where you're not even really wanting it that much anymore. I promise you that's the way it is. Okay. And so then from there, once you're not fasting anymore, of course you're not going back full fledged into it. But from my experience, you get to a place where you don't even want the stuff that much. And so then you can kind of consume it every now and then and have no difficulties, if that makes sense. Okay. So these are the tips that I want to give you, that I have given you, to help you to create a sustainable way of eating that results in fat loss. Let me know what you think about it in the comments, and I hope you guys have a good day. As we get older, it becomes increasingly important to maintain and build muscle. Muscle helps you burn fat, stay mobile, and can contribute to longevity. However, many people have no idea how to work out to build muscle. My mini workout series on Patreon provides you with my body weight mini workout video library. These workouts use little to no equipment, which means that you can do them in the privacy of your own home. They start at beginner level and progress from there to ensure you continue to see results. Every workout is a full body workout, hitting chest, back, legs, and glutes, as well as other muscles in between. Become a patron today and receive access to my series of mini workouts, plus access to a digital copy of my book, 8 Weeks to Transform Your Diet and Your Health. By combining the workouts with healthy diet changes, as outlined in my book, you'll definitely be on your way to weight loss, improved health, and visible results. Join me at patreon.com/SeanB2B Fitness today.